We find several groups together, 3 people together, 4 people together. It seems that they may be helping each other. And we want to know what's happened exactly with these people.
In 79 CE, you know what happened? Mount Vesuvius erupted with a fury that froze Pompeii in time, swallowing streets, homes, and lives under a blanket of ash. For centuries, the city's victims remained silent, their stories locked away in plaster casts.
How desperate they must have been at the time to take shelter and cover from the eruption. Clearly, sheltering here provided no protection. So the big question is, how did they die?
But now, promising AI and CT scans have pierced that silence, revealing astonishing truths hidden inside their remains. Truths that are changing everything we thought we knew about who these people were and the lives they lived. Yes, they may be gone, but today, we will know them better. Peering inside history. For centuries, Pompeii's victims were frozen in silence, their stories locked beneath layers of volcanic ash and plaster. Archaeologists relied on painstaking casts and surface examinations to study them, capturing the haunting outlines of bodies but leaving much of the internal truth obscured. Today, artificial intelligence and high-resolution CT scans are changing everything. These technologies allow researchers to look inside without disturbing the remains, revealing intricate details of anatomy, health, and even subtle traces of daily life. The process begins by scanning plaster casts using CT imaging, producing thousands of detailed cross-sectional images. AI algorithms then analyze these images, detecting minute differences in bone density, fractures, and tissue remnants that would have been invisible otherwise. Every curve of a spine, the wear on a femur, and the delicate structure of a hand can now be examined digitally. This allows researchers not just to see the skeleton, but to reconstruct a full picture of an individual's life, how they moved, what stresses their body endured, and even the diet they maintained. Consider the case of a victim whose posture suggested a natural maternal embrace. While the cast hinted at tenderness frozen in stone, AI revealed subtle skeletal markers that contradicted that assumption. The adult's skeletal structure and bone composition indicated it was a male, possibly a laborer, who had fallen in a protective gesture rather than a parent cradling a child. Another scan showed a woman whose spinal curvature indicated years of repetitive labor, likely hauling water or heavy goods. Tiny fractures in her ribs told a story of sudden trauma, likely caused by collapsing debris during the eruption. In this way, AI transforms frozen moments into narratives brimming with lived experience. Beyond injuries, the scans provide insight into long-term health. Wear patterns on teeth suggest the kinds of food consumed, from coarse grains to remnants of vegetables and legumes. Joint erosion reveals repetitive activities, hinting at daily work in kitchens, markets, or workshops. Even subtle abnormalities, small bone growths, or indications of healed fractures speak to resilience, showing how these people endured pain and physical strain long before the volcano's deadly eruption. Another astonishing application is forensic reconstruction. AI can differentiate between perimortem trauma, injuries that occurred during the eruption, and pre-existing conditions. In one scan, a man's shattered forearm appeared severe at first glance. Yet AI analysis showed the fracture had partially healed, suggesting he had survived an earlier accident, perhaps from a fall or workplace injury. Such details humanize the victims, reminding us that their lives were complex, full of ordinary struggles and remarkable resilience. The technology also allows for comparative studies. By analyzing multiple casts simultaneously, researchers can identify patterns across the population. Certain injuries or bone conditions appear consistently, hinting at common occupations, social status, or even environmental factors like poor ventilation in homes. AI reveals these connections in ways that would be impossible using traditional methods, giving scholars a multi-dimensional view of Pompeii as a living, breathing city rather than a static archaeological site. Finally, the ability to explore these remains digitally preserves them for future generations. Fragile plaster casts can deteriorate over time, but high-resolution scans create a permanent record, allowing anyone to peek inside without risk. These virtual reconstructions are also invaluable for education, letting students, historians, and enthusiasts engage with Pompeii in ways previously unimaginable. Every scan, every algorithm, every digital slice bridges the gap between ancient tragedy and modern understanding, turning silent figures into narrators of their own history. Before technology could reveal more secrets, we must first step into the chaos of that fateful day to witness Pompeii's final hours, the final moments of Pompeii. On a quiet August morning in 79 CE, life in Pompeii unfolded with ordinary rhythms. Merchants opened their stalls, children ran through cobblestone streets, and families prepared for the day. Yet, high above the city, Mount Vesuvius stirred ominously. Initially, residents may have thought the rumblings and ash clouds were minor tremors or distant storms. Within hours, the volcano unleashed one of history's most devastating eruptions, a combination of fiery pyroclastic flows, scorching gases, and relentless ash that would immortalize the city in tragedy. Eyewitnesses recorded in Pliny the Younger's letters describe sudden darkness as ash and pumice rained down from the sky, the air filled with choking dust, making each breath a struggle. People scrambled to escape, but the streets quickly became treacherous. Heavy stones and debris blocked passageways, while the intense heat of pyroclastic currents turned flight into a desperate gamble for survival. Families clung together, instinctively shielding children and elderly, while others sought refuge wherever possible. The city, once bustling with trade and laughter, transformed into a landscape of chaos and terror. Some victims left behind haunting evidence of their final moments. Plaster casts of bodies revealed positions frozen in instinctive gestures, a man shielding his head with folded arms, a child clutching a parent's clothing, a couple huddled together as if seeking comfort in each other's presence. These forms, captured by the ash and later immortalized by archaeologists, offer a silent testimony to fear, pain, and human instinct. Yet, as evocative as these casts are, they tell only part of the story. The external forms conceal the hidden details of health, injury, and identity. Details that centuries of ash had preserved, but that modern science would only now begin to uncover. The eruption's effects varied across the city. Some areas were buried under meters of ash, where residents were trapped instantly. Others faced slower suffocation from ash inhalation, or survived initial flows, only to be overtaken by later surges of heat and gas. Archaeologists estimate that thousands perished within hours, their lives abruptly halted, leaving behind streets, homes, and belongings preserved almost exactly as they were at that fateful moment. The preservation of Pompeii is unparalleled, offering a rare, almost cinematic glimpse into an entire city frozen mid-life. Amid this horror, the human element shines through. In some cases, the positions of victims suggest attempts at escape, protection, or even unconscious acceptance. These details allow us to imagine the thoughts and emotions of ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances: fear, desperation, and fleeting moments of hope before disaster struck. The silent witnesses of Pompeii remind us that beyond the ash, tragedy, and time, these were real individuals with lives, routines, and relationships, people who will now speak again through the lens of modern technology. As the ash settled, Pompeii's streets became a tomb, preserving not just structures, but the very shapes of human experience. Centuries later, AI and DNA would allow us to see inside these frozen forms, not just to study the aftermath of disaster, but to recover the humanity, diversity, and daily struggles of the victims themselves. But bones can only tell so much. What if the secrets of blood and ancestry could reveal stories plaster and ash never could? DNA unlocks hidden identities. While AI and CT scans illuminate the physical lives of Pompeii's victims, DNA has opened a window into who they truly were. In recent years, scientists have mastered techniques to extract ancient genetic material even from remains buried under nearly 2 millennia of ash. This fragile biological record contains more than markers of health. It speaks to ancestry, sex, familial ties, and connections across the Roman Empire. One of the most surprising revelations came from casts long assumed to represent maternal figures holding children. DNA analysis flipped this assumption entirely. In one such cast, the supposed mother was in fact male, unrelated to the child beside him. Another pair, believed to be sisters or a mother-daughter duo, included at least one male, challenging centuries of interpretations based solely on posture and placement. These findings illustrate a fundamental lesson. Human intuition can be misleading when confronted with frozen moments in time. Genetics, in contrast, reveals the hidden truth embedded within every cell. Beyond individual stories, DNA has shed light on Pompeii's remarkable diversity. Far from being a homogeneous community, the city appears to have been a vibrant mix of people from across the Roman world. Analyses reveal individuals with ancestry tracing to the Eastern Mediterranean, North Africa, and other distant regions. Such genetic variety aligns with historical accounts of Pompeii as a bustling trade hub, a cosmopolitan city where merchants, artisans, and laborers from across the empire converged. These findings not only complicate our image of Roman society, but also highlight the deep interconnectedness of its people. Centuries before globalization as we know it, the DNA also provides insight into health patterns and resilience. For example, certain genetic markers indicate predispositions to anemia or bone fragility, corroborating evidence from CT scans and skeletal examinations. Other markers hint at inherited traits that could explain repetitive stress injuries or susceptibility to infection. By combining AI-driven scans with genetic evidence, researchers are able to construct a far more nuanced portrait of life in Pompeii, one that blends occupation, diet, environment, and ancestry into a cohesive narrative. Even more fascinating is what DNA reveals about social dynamics and family structures. In some casts, groups of individuals previously assumed to be related were found to share no genetic connection at all. This suggests that social bonds, rather than purely familial ones, may have dictated proximity in living arrangements or even in death. Conversely, some victims buried apart turned out to be closely related, implying that their lives and possibly their final moments were intertwined in ways not immediately apparent from archaeology alone. Every genetic revelation adds layers to the human story, transforming static casts into living histories of connection, kinship, and community. The study of ancient DNA also has broader implications for understanding migration and cultural exchange in the Roman world. The presence of non-local ancestry in Pompeii suggests active movement of people, whether through trade, military service, or artisanal work. These discoveries challenge older notions of isolated cities and point to a far more fluid, dynamic society. Genetic evidence complements historical texts, artifacts, and inscriptions, bridging gaps where the written record is silent or incomplete. Crucially, DNA analysis also brings ethical considerations to the forefront. These victims cannot consent to modern examination, and yet their genetic material is now part of a global scientific dialogue. Researchers must balance the pursuit of knowledge with respect for human dignity, ensuring that discoveries illuminate history rather than exploit it. Thoughtful interpretation of DNA, combined with AI insights, allows Pompeii's residents to speak across millennia, not as anonymous relics, but as fully realized individuals whose identities, struggles, and diversity can finally be appreciated. DNA doesn't just confirm facts, it surprises, corrects, and enriches our understanding. Every extracted strand is a messenger from the past, revealing hidden identities and forging connections between people we might never have guessed were related. Combined with AI and CT scans, it transforms Pompeii from a static scene of disaster into a vibrant, complex human story, teaching us that even in the shadow of tragedy, lives can leave an enduring legacy. And the surprises don't stop there. What can their bones and DNA tell us about the everyday lives they led before disaster struck? Daily life and human stories. Beyond tragedy and death, the victims of Pompeii carry within them remarkable stories of daily life, resilience, and human experience. AI-driven CT scans and DNA analysis do more than reveal injuries and ancestry. They allow researchers to reconstruct the rhythms of ordinary life in a city frozen by catastrophe. Every fracture, wear pattern, and genetic marker offers clues about how people lived, worked, and endured the challenges of their world. Take diet, for instance. Examination of teeth and jawbones, complemented by chemical analysis, shows that Pompeians consumed a surprisingly balanced diet for the era, rich in grains, legumes, fruits, and vegetables, with occasional meat or fish. Patterns of wear on teeth suggest grinding of coarse grains, indicating bread as a dietary staple, while traces of cavities hint at the sweetness of honey and dried fruits. These tiny details transform static remains into living narratives, connecting us to the tastes, habits, and routines of long-gone individuals. Physical labor is another story told through bones. Joint wear, spine curvature, and skeletal stress patterns indicate that men and women alike performed repetitive, physically demanding tasks. Some victims show signs of heavy lifting, possibly in workshops or markets. Others bear the hallmarks of long hours fetching water or working in kitchens. One woman's spine reveals a lifetime of stooped labor, while a man's shoulder bones suggest repetitive overhead activity, each injury a testament to a life of effort and endurance. Such insights humanize the victims, showing us not just how they died, but how they lived. Small traumas, like healed fractures or minor bone growths, tell stories of resilience. A healed rib fracture hints that a man survived an earlier accident, perhaps a fall or workplace injury. Finger and wrist wear suggest craft or trade work, from pottery to weaving. These marks, invisible to the naked eye until AI-assisted CT scans, offer intimate glimpses into daily toil, ambition, and survival. Beyond physical labor, social life also leaves traces. Bone analyses combined with burial patterns indicate differences in age and health, hinting at family structures, social roles, and hierarchies. Children show slower skeletal development in some cases, suggesting malnutrition or illness, while older adults display signs of accumulated hardship and work-related strain. These insights highlight the human cost of ordinary life in ancient Pompeii, an existence full of effort, care, and community. Even moments of leisure or cultural practice can be inferred. Certain repetitive motions in upper limbs suggest musical activity or artisanal crafts, hinting at hobbies, professions, or artistic pursuits. Jewelry and personal artifacts found in proximity to casts complement skeletal evidence, giving a richer picture of individual identity and personality. Through these layers of information, AI and DNA allow the dead to narrate their own lives, turning archaeological remains into vivid, relatable histories. Perhaps most strikingly, these discoveries show that Pompeians were ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. Their struggles, joys, and vulnerabilities mirror our own. While the eruption froze their final moments in time, the internal evidence, their bones, their DNA, reminds us that they were fully human. Parents, laborers, children, artisans, and travelers, each with a unique story cut tragically short but now partially recovered through science. Through this lens, Pompeii ceases to be just a site of disaster. It becomes a living city once more, its residents' humanity preserved and reconstructed through technology. Every scan, every DNA sequence, every carefully measured fracture is a reminder that history is not just dates and events. It's the lived experiences of people whose lives, though ended abruptly, continue to speak to us across millennia. Pompeii and Roman society. The revelations uncovered through AI scans and DNA analysis are not just about individual lives. They challenge long-standing assumptions about Pompeii as a community and, by extension, Roman society. Far from a homogeneous city, Pompeii emerges as a vibrant mosaic of peoples, cultures, and experiences, reflecting the interconnectedness of the Roman Empire. Genetic studies reveal individuals with ancestry from across the Mediterranean and beyond, suggesting extensive migration and movement of people for trade, work, or familial ties. Some victims had roots in North Africa, others in the Eastern Mediterranean, highlighting Pompeii's role as a crossroads for commerce and cultural exchange. This cosmopolitan makeup underscores the diversity of urban life in the Roman world, contradicting earlier notions that such cities were composed mainly of local, homogeneous populations. Social hierarchies and occupational roles are similarly illuminated. Skeletal analysis shows clear evidence of repetitive labor, reflecting the economic demands placed on different members of society. Combined with the genetic evidence of diverse backgrounds, This suggests that people from varied regions contributed to the daily life and economy of the city, from manual laborers and artisans to traders and merchants. Pompeii was not a static snapshot, but a dynamic urban center, thriving on movement, interaction, and the exchange of skills and goods. These insights also prompt reconsideration of family and social structures. Castes, once interpreted as familial groupings, have been re-examined under the lens of DNA, revealing that proximity in death did not always indicate blood relations. Social bonds, economic ties, or even friendship may have influenced how people lived and how they were preserved in the final moments of the eruption. This challenges our assumptions about ancient domestic life, highlighting the complexity of social networks in Pompeii. Ethical considerations accompany these discoveries. Extracting DNA from human remains raises questions about consent and respect for the dead, reminding researchers and the public alike that scientific curiosity must be balanced with dignity. Similarly, the interpretation of these findings requires caution. Every revelation must be contextualized within historical, archaeological, and cultural frameworks to avoid oversimplifying lives that were rich and nuanced. Taken together, the integration of AI, CT scans, and DNA analysis transforms our understanding of Pompeii. The city is no longer merely a site of catastrophe frozen in ash. It is a living, breathing community whose residents' stories of work, family, diversity, and resilience can now be partially reconstructed. These technologies do more than uncover the past. They humanize it, revealing the complexity, adaptability, and vibrancy of those who lived in one of history's most famous cities. Through these revelations, Pompeii offers lessons that extend beyond archaeology. It demonstrates how scientific innovation can rewrite history, challenge assumptions, and reveal the rich tapestry of human experience across time and space. More than a city frozen by tragedy, Pompeii stands as a testament to the enduring humanity of its residents and the potential of modern science to honor their stories. For more astonishing stories from history uncovered by science, don't forget to subscribe and stay amazed.